You can do it. You can go create. Just get to it. I promise you'll feel great. Because life can get ugly, and art sure can too. What matters is to do it. Let those feelings flow through you.
Fucking Seafair. I have all my windows closed and everything. It can keep out all the traffic noise. This is the first one of the week, too. Of course, it's like right now. Fuckers.
It is. I kind of want to just leave that in the podcast because it's ugly. I love it. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Ugly Podcast.
The Ugly Podcast, is it? Do you want to start over on that?
Honestly, no.
Is it just the Ugly? It's not the Ugly Art Podcast. It's the Ugly Podcast. I'm sorry.
It's the Ugly Podcast. No, it's on brand, and you know what? Stuff like this happens, and I think it's funny. So I leave it in.
Fair enough.
Welcome everybody to the Ugly Podcast. It's me, your host, Laura Alexander. For those of you who don't know me, I am your short, curly-haired weirdo. Today I've got my tattoos out and everything. And I'm here with a great guest for you all today. My guest creates affordable housing and is the author of Bittersweet Lane, Creating Homes in the American Affordable Housing Crisis. He makes bad music because he loves it, and bad watercolors because his daughter loves it. And I'm so excited to introduce you. Please welcome. Introduce yourself with your name, your pronouns, and what you're looking like today.
All right. Thanks, Laura. Thank you for having me. Jamie Madden. I like to say he and she pronouns, she being the Irish language pronoun, because I like to remind people, as well as messing with gender, that we don't need to only relate to each other in English.
Love that. Yeah.
And I don't know, how do I look today? I've yet to have enough morning things, but I've got my KEXP Music Heals t-shirt on to try to be on theme for thinking about how art affects our lives.
Amazing. I love it. I want to just first dive in to have listeners know a little bit more about like what exactly it is that you do with affordable housing, because it's a really important thing that you do, and it's a really cool. I think not enough of us truly understand. And I know we're not going to get into the nitty gritty of like everything that you do, but just kind of a brief overview of what you do.
Sure, yeah. So for the last 15 years or so of my life, my work has primarily been around creating affordable housing. And what affordable housing means is homes that are restricted in price. And that might be a very low rent for very low income families. It might be kind of medium below cost sales price for, working class homeowners who wouldn't otherwise be able to afford it. It's included childcare and retail, ownership and rental, all sorts of things. I've been lucky to work with some of the biggest and I'd say best nonprofits in the affordable housing development space, like the Community Builders and Preservation of Affordable Housing, as well as small community groups, religious groups. And the role I play is it's project management in our field. And when I'm trying to explain it, it's the seat that's responsible for making sure that it gets built. Because building housing is on one hand, really simple, right? It's literal bricks and mortar. This is not, neurosurgery. This is not solving racism writ large. It's like, how do we find a site, get permissions to build on it? And how do we pull together the resources to direct materials and labor? But that one sentence involves years of work and involves skills in finance. And I have some very ugly spreadsheets to go along with the ugly art. It involves working with communities and politicians. It involves working with architects and general contractors. And I don't know, I love doing this work. This is what the book is all about. The book was meant to demystify what affordable housing is, because I'd say most of us are suffering in this current housing crisis. And it is actually as straightforward and simple as homes are the solution to homelessness. It's there in the word. I'm not sure why it confuses so many people. But the why is just as important. And the book is using memoir and my childhood stories, my intergenerational family stories of housing insecurity and growing up in affordable housing. And that's why this work is a treasure for me, because I get to make a living trying to make things better for the next kid who will grow up like I did. And I don't know, I can't ask for much more than that.
Absolutely. And you precisely summed up exactly why I wanted to have you on the podcast today. Because if some people listening to this, like, oh, this is an interesting guest to have, somebody who's doing like affordable housing stuff. It's not necessarily like a creative thing that you're doing. Well, I mean, it is, but not like in the way that I usually talk about on this podcast. But the way that your book brings in that creativity and that human piece to it of, putting stories to this larger systemic problem, because otherwise it's just like faces that you don't know, numbers, statistics that can be very dehumanizing. And so
Mm-hmm.
you bring this humanization to this larger problem in our society. And also, one of the things that stood out to me is through your in your background and in the way that you navigated the system, perfectionism showed up a lot.
Yeah, sure.
And as I was editing your book, which this is for, I don't know if I mentioned this already, this is how we got to know each other, is I was the copy editor for Jamie's book. And
I still like them. That's how good of a copy editor they are. They copy edited my book, and I still like them.
Oh, that makes me so happy. Thank you, Jamie. That is saying something. He saw all the red lines and still wants to talk to me. An honor. But one of the things that you brought up in that book was like how perfectionism manifested. So I wonder if you can talk more about that.
Yeah, and this was one of the themes that was revealed to me throughout the writing. My process was building a giant granite block of words, writing almost everything I thought I wanted to say, everything I can remember experiencing in my life that might be relevant, and then carve a book out of that. And as I was carving the book out of that, I noticed this theme, particularly in times of my life where there was more trauma or it was more difficult, was this reaction I had to be perfect and to work incredibly hard and to be incredibly busy. And I had to really reflect on, like, why am I doing this and what does it mean? And it's an interesting duality in my own mind, because if you were to ask me about perfectionism, when I was 9 years old or yesterday, I would say, it's not possible. It's not good. It's not a good trait. It holds us back. We shouldn't be like that. I was trying to think of earliest versions. And for folks who remember the 90s Nickelodeon TV show Pete and Pete, there's this great episode where there's a guy who does everything perfectly, except they give him barbecue wings and he eats them without making any mess. And the message was, that's wrong. That's not how you're supposed to eat wings. Sure, it looks perfect, but it's the wrong way to approach wings being that neat. So I had this ethos of, like, you don't want to be too perfect. You don't want to try to do that. But at the same time, because I'd grown up poor, because I wanted to go to college and, have a decent life and all, I did have to be perfect, right? I had to make the bus on time to get to work. I had to do the job perfectly. I had to do all my schoolwork perfectly. And as this theme emerged and I'm reviewing my writing, it was kind of the sad conclusion of, look at all this extra stress and anxiety and health issues that, haunt me to this day, that I experienced as a child chasing perfectionism. And I wasn't wrong, because that is kind of what it takes to achieve social mobility in our country these days, maybe ever, but certainly these days. And, it's something I'd say now in my life I'm trying really hard to unlearn and to not worry about.
Yeah, the systems that we live under require perfectionism in order to navigate those systems and to achieve upward mobility, especially if you have other marginalizations to your
That's
name
right.
and existence. I mean, And so how then do you, once you've kind of grown up, you've gotten to a certain point in your life, those messages of like needing to be perfect kind of still reside in your body. Like you said, it shows up in other ways. It manifests in health problems, in aches in your body. And there's so many ways that it stays with you even after you're not in those places of emergency survival, basic survivalism.
Yeah, which is why it's been so good for me to work in the field of my central childhood traumas, and with bureaucracies every day who, they are the ones that expect perfection, because our system is really premised not on helping people, but on separating who is worthy of help and who is not worthy of help. And whether you're someone looking for housing or you're a sponsor or developer trying to build housing, that need to prove perfect worthiness is still there. So, yeah, I've continued to abuse myself by doing this work.
I was just going to ask, and how does that make you feel, Jamie?
To be honest, though, it is so worth it at the other end. And whenever I've had a really tough day work-wise, if I can look at one of the developments I got to work on in the past, and particularly if it's something I can visit and see kids playing outside or families walking home or whatever, it's all worth it. It washes it all away.
Yeah. Well, and at the moment, that is what we have available to us. And so like you, as frustrating and as like so much rage that I'm sure is associated with that, it is still the best that the system is offering us right now. And so you are still doing everything that you can to make sure that those people are getting that housing, and that's absolutely worthwhile. So thank you so much for the work that you're doing.
Thank you. It feels like throwing water against the tide often, but I think for every individual we can help, it's the world. How many homes we could build just with the fuel they're burning up in those fighter jets right now.
Oh, God.
If you heard that one too.
Yeah. So how do you notice that perfectionism changing for you now, or as you grew up? How does it? I guess what's your relationship with perfectionism, with creativity now?
Yeah, I'd say it's much healthier. A few changes in that. Certainly, becoming a parent is revolutionary to how any of us lives our lives. And my daughter's an artist. She has made visual art every day of her life, painting, collage, markers, whatever. She loves to make things. And my mother-in-law is actually a quite talented visual artist, and our home is full of her paintings and things. So I love that she has that. And, I tell her, you just keep making art every day. You get to be an artist when you grow up. You get to be like Halmany. And, that then provides something for me to do with her. And said at the top, we do watercolors together. I really enjoy. And there's no point in trying to be perfect. Visual art is something I will never be good at. It's something I never care to be good at. And making it with my child was the first time, probably as an adult, I don't know, in a long, long time, that I did something I knew I would never be good at and just enjoyed it. And visual art was like never my thing. It's funny working in this field because, obviously architects, landscape architects, civil engineers have huge roles to play in city planning and affordable housing development. So when I was in graduate school, I entered knowing how to communicate with words and numbers, but most of my professors were trained as architects who communicate almost solely in pictures. That's how their minds work. So I really had to learn how to communicate that way and start using visuals again. But it really clicked, I think, becoming a parent and letting go of the perfection and letting go of the, elementary art school stuff from a child that probably made me stop drawing in the first place or what have you.
So making art with your daughter helped you, is like a place where you don't care if you're good, you know that it's probably going to be bad, and you just embrace and get
and enjoy it.
Into the flow of the process, and whatever will be.
Yeah, and that flow, the word you use, flow, I think is really resonant. There's an Irish artist, musician, writer, podcaster, Blind Boy Boat Club, who speaks constantly about the state of flow and how he gets into the state of flow in various ways for writing or music. And music was always one of the few things that could reliably get me into that state. To the point where when I was drafting up the book and writing initially, I found that if I played guitar for a half hour first, I could write much more easily because
Oh,
I
I
had
love
touched that
that.
flow state. But yeah, with my daughter in watercolors, I'm able to get into flow state as well. And every once in a while, I'll make something that I like. You know, it's not for sharing, it's not good, but I enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely. That is truly the message I hope to give to people. And I mean, I don't know if this podcast gets out to exactly which people this podcast gets out to. I know it gets out to a lot of like artists and artsy people, but truly people who don't think of themselves as creative at all, especially like I think of my dad. My dad just does not think of himself as creative. He's like he will not pick up art supplies unless I force him to. But like when I am able to like invite him into the ugly art space, he's like, "Oh, this is very fun." I'm like,
Mm-hmm,
"Yes,
mm-hmm.
creating is fun. Like just do it because it's fun and it's just an enjoyable process. It doesn't need to be like this idea that your art has to be for showing other people, for selling, for
That's
whatever.
right.
It's absolute bullshit. I need
It's
people to
bullshit,
just
and it's
create.
one of those like central lies of capitalism, right? It's like you must
Yes.
monetize this. If it's not perfect, you can't compete, you can't make money off of it. Don't bother. And
Hmm.
I think, especially growing up poor, working class, there's just every day that messaging. You know, you're not going to become an artist, you're not going to become a writer, you're not going to become an academic. You're going to become something useful. Um, which, not for nothing, is another nice bit of working in affordable housing development is being able to explain what I do to people because they understand a job site, they understand construction in ways that, you know, if I were in, say, public policy or the arts or whatever, my family would not understand it at all, at all.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Um, okay, so I wanted to touch more on music for you.
Yes.
How did you get into music? You say that you make bad music. I'm curious.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean to you? What do you enjoy doing about
Yeah.
music?
Yeah. I mean, music has been there for my soul as long as I can remember. My mother played guitar as a teenager in the 70s, and raising us in the 80s and 90s, when she could, would pull out her guitar and play for us, let us mess around with them. Really cheap, old, imitation Les Paul, and also an acoustic guitar that had about a half inch of action above the 12th fret, which, you know, for my childhood fingers was just not going to happen. And she eventually sold those guitars to buy me a Mexican-made Stratocaster, a Fender Stratocaster, when I was 12. And I've been playing trumpet, you know, fourth grade school band kind of thing, and enjoyed that. Picked up guitar later on, picked up bass, playing with friends. Probably from the age of 14, was taking the T into Boston and going to punk shows and ska shows and all sorts of DIY underground music, and really found my soul then. Um, I'd started drinking in seventh grade, but by ninth grade, I could stop because I had music and I had it there every weekend. And the indie kind of DIY scene, particularly the all ages scene in Boston at the time, was very straight edge, and not out of like ideology or, you know, you should live this way. It was like we kept losing venues because the cops would come if someone was drinking or using drugs or whatever, and we didn't want to lose the venues. Um, so it was just this great place to carry me through. And folks can read the book if you want to learn about my childhood and teenage traumas, but there were a lot of them, and music really helped me process through that, and it's never left. I've had times when I've played more and played less. College was tough. I went to Swarthmore College, which was wonderful, but you know, it's an elite institution. It's one of the hardest schools to get into in the country, and it's one of these schools where it's not you're not going so you can network and make connections like some of the Ivies. It's really a bunch of nerds who are there to do what they're doing as hard as they can do it for knowledge or for art's own sake. But for a mediocre musician, that was kind of killer because I'm like, oh my God, these people, I can't play with any of these people. They're too good. It's too much. And the rest of it
Yeah.
was too hard anyway. So I kind of, lost this trajectory I'd been on for, all of my teenage years and some of my childhood. And it really took till then I was in my 20s, in my 30s as a professional, having some free time, having a couple of dollars to get equipment and play. And it was, just something I did in my room. And as I found myself playing on my own, which again is that like lack of confidence that perfectionism can put into to us, I would only play for myself. And then I started singing, and I cannot carry a tune. My wife has a perfect pitch and it drives her fucking insane. I cannot carry a tune. But like I'll play and sing for myself, and just had never found that before, and found it to be just so cathartic, so good for my mental health, so good for my creativity and my ability to relate to people and just keep going in life. So it's always been there for me. And then I'd say in the last decade or so, have had a lot more fun playing with people, and particularly in trips to Ireland or hanging out with musician friends, just having a session at the end of the night. And I've got myself good enough I can hold my own in a session, give me a guitar or a tin whistle or a bass, and, it won't be terrible. It might be ugly, but it won't be terrible. It's good fun. And I've been trying to instill that in my daughter and her friends. She's much more of a visual arts kid, but she'll play music with me now and then. We can get into a good groove. And I've got this little alcove in my apartment I call the Belltown Music Hall, and it's got all the instruments. And whenever a kid is over, if a little kid asks me, can I try that? Can I try the trumpet, the bass, the keyboard, whatever? Yeah, let's pull it down. And I had to amend the rule for the tin whistles. 3 5-year-olds playing tin whistle is not survivable. But otherwise, it's just I love them to find
You gotta
the
have
fun
limits.
in it. Yeah, and this is a conversation. The conversation I'm having with you about this stuff is a conversation I have with my wife a lot, because I mentioned she has an incredible ear. She also was in violin lessons from the age of 4, in a really competitive kind of conservatory environment in Maryland. And by the time I'd met her as an adult, she had all this skill and talent for music and no love, like just trauma, really.
Yeah.
And I saw the flip side of that, where I've got nothing but love and very little talent or skill.
Yeah.
And so we talk about how do we, not pass on our traumas to our child, and how do we help make her life better. And this is one of those places of just encouraging the creativity and just letting it be there to play and for self-expression and for connecting with friends, and not being something that she has to be perfect at or has to be super good. She's already got a little bit of a better ear than me, so there's hope.
Oh, that's so sweet. I love that you're doing that and providing that environment for your kid. It's a really beautiful thing. I also had I had that experience of my parents made me play piano, and because it was kind of a requirement, I think everything in my little rebellious brain was like, no, I don't want to. But I wanted to learn how to play guitar, and they said I couldn't play guitar until I learned how to play piano. And so I had to do 2 years of piano, and every second of it just felt forced, and I just hated it. I was a begrudging process from start to finish. And then even to the point where once I was doing guitar lessons, I think I had associated playing music just with misery. And so even when I started playing guitar, I was just like, well, I don't want to do this either.
But you can find some nice misery to play, have a goth guitar phase.
Absolutely. I think a lot of it too was also like the perfectionism. Like I didn't pick up guitar very quickly. My fingers didn't move very well, very fast, and because it wasn't something that I picked up quickly, it was just like, okay, well clearly that's not for me. I'm very much that person who grew up where things either came really easy to me, in which case I was just like, oh yeah, this is great, and then I'd do it. Or if it came with any kind of struggle, it was just like, well, clearly that's not in the cards. Which now as an adult, I'm like, oh, I wish I had just kind of played around and like stayed in that novice phase, just allowed myself to be bad for a while and just get curious about what that offers.
Yeah. It's interesting. actually gone through the process twice again in the last few years because I've had this string of injuries and such. Had really severe carpal tunnel pain in both hands, and did that working class toxic masculinity thing where I'm like, I'll just work through the pain. I got work to do. I'll see a doctor later.
Mm-hmm.
And it got to the point where, like, neuropathic pain was from my fingertips to my shoulder and waking me up in the mornings. And decided to write a book with severe carpal tunnel, which was a great decision. But the point is, I had to stop playing guitar and bass and pretty much everything. Tin whistle still worked, which is probably when I picked it up. But I completely had to stop for about a year because I tried non-surgical stuff for a year. Eventually had the surgeries, and I'm like, I can play again. So I learned to play again. Then I hurt the tendons in my wrists and elbows bad enough that I couldn't play again. And had to learn over again. The second time wasn't as bad. The first time was a real struggle. It was really going from like zero and teaching myself to play again. And I'd had a trip to Ireland planned for post-pandemic and was staying with a musician friend. I'm like, I know there's going to be sessions. Got to be able to at least play by then. So this great goal, and went through that process of like learning how again and trying to figure out like how to let go of perfection, how to let go of self-criticism, getting better at when mistakes happen, using them and playing with them instead of letting it interrupt me or back me up, which I think is a really important thing as a musician, especially if you're not very good like me. And then that relearning a one time, when I had to relearn the second time over the last year has been there. And I don't know, in some way it makes music even more precious to me because I had to fight to get it back. And so now it's like I never, never, never want to let this go again if I can help it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's something that my partner is struggling with right now. Is we just got all of her instruments back from Colorado last month. She finally like moved all of her stuff up here to Tacoma, and so now she has everything back, and she's like, I haven't touched these for 3 years. And she's so scared to get started, and so much of that perfectionism and like, I'm just like I'm not good, and like, was I ever good? And it's just like, oh, I just want you to enjoy the thing that you like doing.
Yeah.
I want to kind of step into talking about resistance a little bit, because creativity and resistance, I feel like, just go right hand in hand. But while we do that, would you like to make some ugly art together?
Sure. I've got a watercolor book. This was Father's Day gifts. I got a little nice watercolor paper.
Oh, nice.
Some watercolor brush pens.
Great. Do you would you like a prompt to get you started? Okay.
Yeah.
I think because it's been fun to just like talk about music and stuff, I wonder if we can combine these a little bit and do a watercolor of musical instruments. How does that sound?
Hold on. It sounds good, but I've got one to show off because I can show you what the wall looks like in my Belltown Music Hall.
Ooh, amazing. Oh, incredible. He's holding up a painting that he's already done of all the different instruments that he has on his walls.
Yeah.
That's
Very
so
bad
good.
watercolor done a while ago, but I love it.
Perfect. All right, let's add a twist to that. I want it to be your instruments having a conversation together.
All right, we'll figure something
out. And interacting with one another. All right. And if you're able to talk whilst painting, amazing. But yeah, I would love to know what role you see art playing in resistance under the current and, I mean, long-standing regimes we've been under.
Yeah. In the long-standing bit, it's funny, in my book, it ends up being that because I wanted to understand the origin of intergenerational poverty in my own family lines and the origins of housing insecurity and homelessness in America. And the two things kind of collided 400 years ago in the conquest and colonization of Ireland by Cromwell and the British and such. And art has always, always, always been a part of Irish culture going way back before colonialism. The poets, artists, keepers of knowledge and lore were held in as much esteem as the highest warriors or the most wealthy farmers and such. But, famously, we've got lots and lots of music and other art that has kept our histories and allowed us to pass on our histories when a lot of history books in the United States and the UK don't, or frankly, write over it with false stuff. Mm-hmm. And, and has also covered not just sort of what happened, but how it felt. Like I can sing the fields of Athenry, Four Green Fields, and feel that. And especially now living in Seattle, where I'm the colonizer living on someone else's fourth green field, really feeling that. And Four Green Fields happens to be a song that my daughter likes me to sing for her. She likes me to sing to her, especially at bedtime sometimes. And the way that music and art generally can help us teach the next generation about the world and about what has happened before they got here and how it affects us and how it feels and what our responsibilities to that are before they have the, intellectual capacity or history or literacy to go at it that way. I feel like music is really, really important for that bit of it. So I think music, art generally, and resistance have always been linked in my mind, just because of being lucky enough to grow up Irish in Boston and having that culture there all the time and knowing that that's what the culture was for. And, in the last decade or so, there's been almost a cultural, saying cultural revolution, those two words in a row doesn't come right after spending time in China, but a big shift in the culture in the Republic of Ireland, well, in Ireland generally, where young people are making new types of resistance art, not just about our colonialism in the past or forced starvation in the past. The forced starvation happening right now. Irish artists are very focused on helping Palestine. Language revitalization. People are making art with the Irish language. Bands like Kneecap and Fontaine's DC and Bird and many, many others are using the Irish language in all sorts of new forms of music. And that is language revival, right? A language is alive if young people are making art with it. So it's been incredible, as part of the diaspora, watching this happen and watching, elements of the culture that I was raised in finding purchase in a new generation that's using it to fight for their rights to housing, to fight against genocide and colonialism, to fight for the, nothing short of the rebirth of their culture. So it's, art and resistance has always been very, very tied in my mind.
It's so beautiful. I love how you bring in the history element to it. I think I definitely grew up feeling pretty disconnected from history and my own history. And so learning about it as an adult and especially regaining connection to land through that process, I think art really helps us reconnect to land in ways that we as people who, as colonizers, thank you, that was the word I was looking for. As colonizers, we lose that, and reconnecting to land through art, through music, through passing down knowledge and history, I think it helps us grieve in a way that we really need to do in order to find that reconnection, in order to stop perpetuating cycles.
That's right.
Access to grief, I think, is one thing that art really helps us do.
Yeah. I mean, in any emotion too, right? Like for myself, music has always been the way I try to regulate my emotions. I've got, albums and playlists for every mood, and it really does help me. And again, raised in a working class Boston Irish masculinity, emotional literacy and feelings and that sort of thing, not exactly encouraged. And I think music really provides us with the ability to access that. And I've seen it, with people who would never admit to crying or showing an emotion, but they can do it with music.
Yeah, Absolutely. Art is so healing and so necessary. This picture is ridiculous. I'm loving it. All right. Okay. Regarding your writing your book. So, any tips for your past self other than maybe don't write a book when you have
Carpal tunnel. I wouldn't even do that, as much as working through the pain has continued to wreck me, it is also something that's made a lot possible.
Absolutely.
And this was the right time, even if my health didn't make it the right time for this book. One thing that I came to in the writing process that wouldn't have really occurred to me beforehand was the value of imitating.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is, on the theme of ugly art and perfectionism, especially as a 90s kid, you were supposed to not take lessons, learn your instrument from the ether, and then make music that expresses you originally. And, no one else came from it. And that's bullshit. It's always been bullshit, but it was bullshit we were fed in the 90s. And I found what was really, really useful for me whenever I hit writer's block was if I listened to music that hit the topic or hit the mood of what I knew I wanted to write about that day, I could pull lines, I could pull a verse, say, I'll start with John Darnielle from the Mountain Goats lyrics, and that'll give me the rhythm and the tone and the tenor and the feelings, and then, expand and revise, expand and revise, expand and revise until I've left a nugget in there for Mountain Goats fans to see where something came from. But it is my own at that point. And the use of music to write in that way ended up being really, really useful for me and was something I did not expect to have happened at all.
Yeah. I love that. I think, the idea that you have to be unique and that you have to say things all the way the first time, like you have to be the first one to ever come up with this genius idea. Otherwise, why would you write it down in the first place? That's such a silly concept. No, it's not. That's not how it works at all. Especially when it comes to like music. I mean, all of the musical combinations mathematically are already exist, and it's up to us to like you put them in your own way and you put them on your own emphasis and you combine them in your own way. Like it's unique because it's you, not because it hasn't come before or someone hasn't done something similar. You as a person are the uniqueness that is added to the art. So absolutely say it again. And start with that.
Imitation's not a bad place to start.
It's not. It's a great place to start. Love that. All right, let's see what you made.
Still in process, but I've made it this far.
Excellent. I see the trumpet is hollering.
Yeah, that's what they do.
So great. Perfect. Here's what I created. It is a piano mouth with giant eyeballs. And
is it being friendly or is it terrifying you?
It's a little terrifying. It kind of reminds me of those big like Chuck E. Cheese animatronics.
Yeah.
That's kind of the vibe it's giving me. I kind of hate it.
Yeah. It's back with your piano lessons. It's not saying come play me.
It's not saying come play me. I have been interested in playing piano, just like with my ugly art approach, and seeing like do I find it fun if I am approaching it from this like whatever comes out type of mentality. Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna try that.
That's part of the privilege of playing music with children, because you know it's gonna be ugly.
Oh, absolutely.
And like, there are moments when like I'm able to, put the right bass line underneath or the right chord changes and let them go, and they're just banging away at the piano or, whatever instrument they've chosen. But they'll get into a rhythm. and it will work, and they'll find some harmony here and there, and it will be ugly, but they'll get there. And there's these magical, magical moments where it just starts flowing. And, I could maybe get there on my own, but playing with children certainly beats back the anxiety of perfectionism and allows just the fun to come forward.
It's so good. I love that you have that. Well, any last parting thoughts that you'd like to touch on before we close out?
I think it's interesting that as a copy editor, you're have this podcast kind of arguing against perfection. That's a contradiction you could probably spend hours speaking about.
Absolutely.
And I'm highlighting it just to say, there are places. Good art has its place. I'm pretty sure the book is good. I think it's good art. I hope people will check it out. It'll be available this November. And from Row House Books, which is my publisher, they are absolutely incredible. Everyone they've brought in to work on this project has been the right people for the book that's being written. And it's this amazing best of both worlds where I'm getting the morals and values and attention of an independent publisher, but the distribution potential of a major. And I love them, and I'm going to shout them out for anyone out there who's making bad art with words or children's books or anything like that. Check out Row House Books. Submit. It doesn't hurt to submit. You'll get rejected. Everyone gets rejected. You collect 1 billion rejections when you're writing a book. But I would just encourage people to start trying in the spirit of that. And there are not just people, but institutions, businesses, publishing houses that might find a home for your art and might help you transform art that is far, far, far from what you would think of as perfect into something you really love. So just keep making the art. Don't stop. And it's hard. I'm shy. It's hard for me to reach out and find community for it. But it's so, so worth it every time I have. And, if you're sitting somewhere with headphones on, doing something to yourself that will never see the light of day, I'd encourage you just to consider about maybe it does need to see the light of day. And if we can lose our anxiety and our egos around being embarrassed if it's not perfect or if it looks bad, then, I don't know, we can all make more art. And as we said, resistance and culture and keeping our stories and our spirits alive really depends on that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jamie. That's beautiful. Everybody, please check out Jamie's book, Bittersweet Lane. You can get it, I think, wherever books are found.
Wherever books are sold. That's right.
Yeah. Very exciting. Yes, absolutely. Shout out to Row House. They're an excellent client. And I'm so glad that I got to connect with you through your book and since then. So this has been lovely. Thank you again for being here. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. As always, keep it ugly. The Ugly Podcast is created by me, Laura Alexander of Scribe and Sunshine. It's produced and sort of edited also by me and written and directed by absolutely no one. Our theme song was written and produced by the amazing Zoe Tronic. If you like the podcast, be sure to rate and leave a review on your preferred platform and share with the creative people in your life. If you're interested in learning more about what I do, head to scribeandsunshine.com to learn more about my ugly art workshops and my editing services. If you haven't yet today, I dare you to make that thing you've been thinking about making but have been too scared it's gonna be terrible. Make it terrible. And as always, keep it ugly.
You can do it. You can go create. Just get to it. I promise you'll feel great.